Hi, and welcome back to another episode of This and That Trio. We should have been recording all along. We've been just catching up with the week, and so we started just going, and I'm like, wait, we got to hit record.
There's always something to say.
Yeah. Hey, we've just so appreciated everybody's response to us. I felt God nudging me to share that on Facebook, but I was really hesitant because nobody likes to receive any kind of criticism, and we are flawed people. We are not perfect.
Yes, you are. I mean, yes, we are.
And so, when you put yourself out there, people will say, oh, you're Christians and you think that, or you did that or something. So it was hard to put ourselves out there, I feel like, but it was just confirmation. We all three have received lots of just encouragement, really.
Yeah, positive feedback.
Yes, that's a good, positive feedback. And somebody said that they were wanting a lighthearted, faith-filled podcast and listen to us. So that's just very encouraging.
And I feel like especially you, I think Teresa and I have some more growth in this area, but you are very raw, like very... Some of your stuff kind of blew me away. Like, I can't believe you're sharing that with people.
That she was mad at her twin sister and
well, that's definitely on there. I mean, that was one of them. But
Connie remembered it.
Yeah, Connie remembered it. I'm still on the waiting list to get into therapy for that.
Well, I say having a therapist is a good thing. We all have issues.
Well, maybe sometimes I'm too raw because in my mind, things that I've thought about sharing, yes, the cancer journey, I've thought about sharing about divorce and being married a second time. And I'm like, oh, that involves other people. Maybe I should, think about it. But I don't have anything to hide. Like, I just think we need to be real in the moment of life and sharing with each other. And it's
scary.
It is, because you open yourself up, but I get more out of somebody who's just real and says, you know what, I messed up. And this wasn't what I was supposed to say. This wasn't what I was supposed to do. And you look at their life and they're still loving Jesus.
That's well said. I was going to say never trust a skinny cook, but that is good as well. Like, you can't trust somebody until you know that they have walked through the junk and come out on the other side, like you said, praising Jesus, because that's when you see the true character of a person. Like Job, when he went through all that junk and he was still praising God in the end. I feel like the rawness is just scary because, like you said, other people are involved. And I don't want to get a phone call from somebody saying, I know you were talking about me. Well, if the Holy Spirit convicted you, then walk in it. But yeah, but there are a lot of things I have wanted to share. And I just have pulled back a little bit because it's scary. It's scary.
Yeah. And I think talking about trust, which we're going to start a Bible study amongst some family members anyway. And trust, once you lose that trust, it takes forever to get it back. And it can be gone. And trust.
Is that somebody's word? Is that your trustworthiness?
My word is release.
Yeah, that's right.
Mine's love. So,
yeah, we know you. We actually ought to get some goggles and set them right there. Like, we should buy you a pair of your quote unquote love goggles.
Oh, I don't need them right now. That you'll hear about it when I give my gratefulness, and you'll be blown away.
I can't wait. So, what were you saying about the Bible study?
Oh, just that it's I Want to Trust You, But I Don't by Lisa Turkers. And so when I was doing the Bible recap, one of my takeaways, God moments, was something about trust. And I forget exactly what it was about. And then I remember commenting, like writing down, because I journal it, as I look over and see this book that I'm about to start that says, I want to trust you, but I don't. And yet my God shot was, oh, you got to trust God.
Your God shot.
Yeah, in the Bible recap, when you read the passage and not
to just gain what's going on,
but it's
but
not
looking for God's character in all of the passages. And it makes you look at the scripture in a different way. Because there are times I'm like, God shot, I don't see God's character. I can tell you what I get from the scriptures, but you find God's character, and she helps you do that.
Okay, because I've never, Teresa and Tara, you have done the Bible recap 3 years, I think
this
you
is our
said.
third year.
Yeah.
And she doesn't go chronologically. I
Yeah,
mean,
like explain it from the beginning, because people like me who have never done it, I don't even know what that is. I'm picturing it being a Bible with like footnotes at the bottom.
No, so you get on the app, which you can go to YouTube, or I actually watch it through the
YouVersion Bible app.
Yes, thank you. And then it's just a daily study. So it's like 10, 20 minutes a day out of your day.
Yes.
So it really is nothing, if I can say it that way, but you gain so much. And for me, I don't think I've ever read through the Bible beginning to end. And
I've never done it.
Me, the personality that I have, I would have to read the beginning, Genesis all the way to Revelation. Well, that's not what this plan does. You actually read a couple chapters in Genesis, then you go to the book of Job. Then you go back to Genesis, and then we're doing Exodus. It kind of skips around because the Bible is not actually chronological,
Correct.
which I didn't know. So you have to, and I'm still learning, and I'm sure Tara is too, that learning how to find God's character. So that's what you're doing. So you read these chapters. You can do it with someone, like our church started it in October of last year, actually, our Sunday school class, and then other people of the church. And this year, starting in January, we're doing, you can do it with the whole church, and you just kind of collaborate if you want to. You don't have to. So then you just comment on what your God shot was, how you saw God's character. Not like Tara said, like you're looking at what did you get from it. So you kind of have to think about it. And then there's a little short, maybe 8-minute video average of Tara Lee Cobble kind of summarizing it for you and kind of adds to it. Sometimes she'll have different links in it that you can like do more.
You can dig deeper.
Yes. And they also have what they call a D group, where you can go even further into your study, and you can do that. Yeah, so go to thebiblerecap.com. It has a blue icon, and you want to make sure that that's the one that you're linking on, and it says the Bible Recap with Tara Lee Cobble. And it's been a game changer for me, for sure.
Oh, very interesting. I've not done that one.
It makes me accountable, especially because I've linked to share it with Teresa. So, it's, hey.
Accountability is a good thing. Well, I didn't have anybody holding me accountable because I just dug out of my tote these probably 12 Bible studies that I started out strong. The print is bold. Like I have fresh ink in there, and I did not finish them. So I'm adding that to my list this year. I'm going to finish them. It's not that they weren't good, but for some reason, I did not finish them. I mean, they're all good studies. I can literally vividly see myself sitting at the table with a group of women that I was doing those Bible studies with. So I am going to do those again. And so my word for this year is releasing things of the past and looking forward, not in the rearview mirror, which Tara, I have thought about that several times. And the word release was in one of those Bible studies that I flipped through. So Stormy O'Martin, which I always want to say O'Martian, and forgive me.
It looks like that.
Yes, because that's the way the word looks, but it's O'Martin, I think, is it O'Martian? I don't know how to pronounce the name.
O'Martin is what I've always thought of.
So
Martian, but go ahead.
She has a lot of good books, but this particular book, I'm just flipping through it to see where I was, and there's a whole section in there about do you have struggles letting go of things in your past? And I just looked up to the ceiling, not that God was up there, like hanging from the rafter, but I just said, God, help me to see all of these ways that you are showing yourself to me. And I am hearing the word faithful all over the place this last week. It was our preschool lesson. It has been in some of the books that I've been reading. It has been in some of my devotional time. It's just everywhere. God is faithful everywhere. And so I just, it's, it puts me in awe of God and who he is, because there's a lot of people in my life that aren't faithful to me. I'm not faithful sometimes. God is always faithful. And I look back on what he has done in my life, and he hasn't given up on me. And he is always says what he's going to do, and he does what he says he's going to do. I don't think I quite said that right, but he's faithful. And so that's just so reassuring to me, and that God is still growing me. Sometimes I feel like, okay, God planted that seed in me. I started to live for him. I started to bloom. And even before I became that full plant, if you can envision that, I started to wilt. Something came up in life, a disappointment, whatever it was, and I started to wilt. And then somebody, and the scriptures included, come into my life and water me. And then the plant starts to raise up again. And so I feel like my life has been like that. And God is still growing me, still throwing more dirt in my path, which I'm struggle with sometimes. But yeah,
we need dirt.
We do need dirt. Yeah.
So as our listeners cannot see, that we'll get there.
Yes.
But Trina is giving us the motions of planting and digging and
talking with my hands.
Yes.
I love to garden.
Yeah. But that's just a beautiful analogy. And I can picture that in my head, that, we wilt, but then God waters us, and he brings people into our lives that also, maybe just several of them sprinkle us, but that all adds up.
And even the manure is useful.
Yeah.
Not that I encourage it, but, because you do have people come into your life and they're like, take this, and they try to discourage you or whatever. And that's why I think, as the body of believers, we really need to encourage each other. The scripture calls for that, and we need to build each other up. I just had an excellent conversation with a couple of friends this week, and we had discussed that, we can go back and forth, it doesn't matter what we're discussing, but we can encourage each other in that, even if we don't agree with each other. We can still be an encouragement, and that leads to growth, spiritual maturity.
We just don't need Marie Barone's version of encouragement.
I can't watch that show. I just can't watch it. I just can't watch it.
I'm going back and forth between that and Frasier as my nighttime fall asleep.
I thought of that, though, at work. I look at people opening the door in front of me, or me in front of them more now. Like I pay attention to things a little bit more now, because we've said it out loud, like it sticks better with me.
Right.
And it's what we want to leave a legacy of who we are. Who is Tara, and how did she make the world a better place, on my way to heaven?
She was Martha.
Yes. Well, that'll be another episode.
I was talking with Connie, and we were explaining to someone else who didn't grow up with us, explaining, okay, I'm a twin, Tara is my twin, and we're doing this podcast. And the thought is, okay, Tara is Martha and I'm Mary. That's how it's always been. And then we bring in our younger sister, Trina, and she's going to be the talker,
which is not biblical. In fact, there's many biblical references not to be a talker, which I'm sure I'll prove that.
But it's who you are, and
I have stuff to say.
Yes, we are realizing that.
But should it? I'm really bad at this, because I'm a judger by nature. always
I feel
enough.
like I am too.
I really want to be your favorite to all of our listeners, but that would be Teresa. But I am a judger, so I work on that. And I want people to accept me and to give me grace and mercy. So many times I don't want to do the same. I can say that in my marriage so many times, like, yes, Tim, you need to, hey, I had a bad day. Don't be saying that to me. But if he had a bad day, I'm like, but I'm having a really good day. So don't be like, so it's always turned back to me. Hence the love goggles are lost sometimes.
Gotcha. Well, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, I'm not ready to talk about my marriage. You'll have to wait.
It's a good thing we don't have this on video right now. We need to get used to how this is. But I felt led to start a podcast because some people have asked, like, how do you even think about doing this? And I'm not that
About doing the podcast.
about doing a podcast. Like, why did you want to start a podcast? And it's technical in that, well, I've learned, but I just really felt God nudging me to have the three of us start podcast and to be encouraging to other people because it's not out there.
And it's been encouraging to me because, like we had talked in the twin episode, I feel like you and Teresa are your own entity. Like, I know you're two separate people. There's one on each side of me right now. Well, there was until Teresa went to get the coffee stuff. I'll take a large. But I feel like even in our sisterhood, this has been encouraging. It's
Right.
It feels more like the three of us building a stronger relationship. So, and I know you had said in the past, even if we're the only ones that get anything out of it,
Right.
then it's still good.
Right.
And I know I have gotten stuff out of it. And we have had so many comments from listeners saying, oh, thank you, Teresa. Now Tara's mug. Okay, so Teresa just handed me my cup of coffee. Tara says joy in the waiting, and mine says pick me up. What does yours say? No, not yet. Closer. Almost there. Ready. Okay. Well, Tara's is a little more inspiring. But the listeners have also gotten a lot of encouragement from it. That, to me, even though I don't know what would have went bad with it. I mean, so nobody listens. Well, you didn't really lose anything, but it does take faith and I don't know another word to use to get out there and put yourself out there. I think that's the scary part. Not doing a podcast, but putting yourself out there in the podcast. I mean, we could talk about politics, we could talk about relationships, all that stuff exists, and we could give our opinions, but I feel like this is the most intimate kind of podcast because we're sharing us.
Right.
Well, and we're to live out what we believe. And then I'm trying to look quickly through my notes, something that Tara Lee Cobble always says. I shouldn't say always says. I've heard it maybe a couple of times. Something about if God initiates it, God sustains it.
Yep, that's exactly what she
Well,
says.
he gave me the words because I don't know. So I think that's awesome. And so that helps me believe, that helps me trust, and wants me to be more in relationship with him so I can hear him. So it's, if God initiates it, he will sustain it.
That's beautiful.
And that's what I keep thinking about with this podcast and other things. We've talked about a family business and the boys have their on a limb woodworking shop. So it just is, I think, faith builders, because first of all, we all three have said this has helped us with our sister relationship. It's helped us with...
Not that it was bad before.
Oh, no. But at least once a week we're getting together.
Right. And that just started happening.
Yes.
That hasn't been a thing in the past. So just to give a backstory, from the youngest perspective, which I hated being the youngest when I was younger. And now that I'm getting older, I take that for all it's worth.
She says it all the time.
Oh, we will have to share. You finish your story so we don't go off on a tangent, but we'll have to share a story about the youngest when mom was recuperating.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I don't know that I know that story,
No,
but I
you know.
Okay. So, yeah, I lost my train of thought with that. So go ahead and tell
Being
the
the
story.
youngest.
Oh, like my picture is the biggest on the wall?
Yes.
Okay, so that's where I was going. So a little background, I am 5 years younger. This is Trina speaking. And growing up under your guys's, I'm going to call it shadow, you guys were very outgoing, this is how I viewed you. They're both grimacing at me right now. But you were involved in a lot of stuff. You had a lot of friends. And as the younger one, I always felt like I needed to step up and achieve that. So I felt like until I became married and started having children of my own, that sister relationship was just between the two of you because there was such a gap in our ages. I mean, you guys you were already out of school. Tara, I think when you got married, was I in junior high?
Probably,
I would have been.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was a huge gap there. And so until I became an adult and had a family of my own, I think the relationship wasn't there until then. Do you remember, Jenny, you had bought a little basket of fake roses. Do you remember this? To give to your friend Jenny for her birthday. And I cried and cried and cried, and Mom made you talk to me. And I didn't understand why you would give those to your friend and not give me anything.
Were you still in high school?
No, I was real little, like maybe 6th to 8th grade, somewhere in there. I can envision that little basket of roses. Isn't this crazy how things stick with us? Release, Trina, release. Okay, Teresa, go ahead with your story.
So yes, Trina's graduation picture is the biggest.
And it does look good. My hair was on point. Do they say that anymore? On point? Go ahead.
Rest of us, the other 4 that were still at home and have graduation pictures, they're around Trina. So
mine's an 11 by 13, I want to say. And
we're lucky to have an 8 by 10.
11 by 14.
And we're an 8 by 10. So fast forward many, many, many years, and our mom is recuperating from a car accident. And we go to visit her in the rehab center, and Trina brings in her graduation picture.
I do remember that.
And she puts it right in the bookcase where Mom sees it right away.
It's a good picture.
Well, it takes a turn because people bring in flowers and they're setting it up by a nurse comes in or somebody came in and they're like, oh, it looks like a memorial. Like we're paying homage to Trina who has passed away. And so the joke is told, but yeah, hilarious.
Well, it's a good picture. And my mom always says when people say, why is Trina's picture bigger? Mom always says, it came with the package.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
We've
when you buy your senior pictures and you get a big package deal, mine came with that 11 by 14.
We know you're the favorite.
That's
At least you were the favorite of Dad.
That's not true.
Therefore, we had those picture options too, and Mom never chose that option.
Well, she didn't have 4 other kids in the house, so she probably had more money to get me the bigger package because she wasn't giving you guys food.
I also remember
we paid for food. Like when we got a job at Wendy's when we were 16, I remember thinking I can buy my own food because there were times having 5 kids in the house and Mom didn't work a lot of the times. Like she was a stay-at-home mom.
So she worked the most.
Well, yeah, she did. Exactly. Well, tearing out walls was her hobby. She would change the furniture
every Saturday.
Yes.
When she cleaned every Saturday.
Yes. And then there were times I remember we had to get wallpaper up. Like Dad worked afternoons. So he was gone from 3 to 11:30 and we had to get the wallpaper up before he came home. or painted. It was mostly wallpaper back then. But I remember sometimes Dad coming home and hearing, ouch, because she moved the furniture and he didn't realize
it's a
this.
good thing there were no blind people in our house because they would have had a lot of bruises to explain.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Trying to go around. So
And
yeah,
then
you were the favorite.
And she got to go to the Dairy Queen while we were at school, and she was still at home. Do you remember that?
We had to bike to Fostoria to get a
20-cent ice cream cone.
Yeah, with our own money that we got from being in the garden working. Here, you can have 20
You
cents.
sound a little bit bitter. Do you want to borrow my word? Release.
I'm just reliving how you had it so great as the youngest.
There are
one.
a lot of perks to being the youngest. I'm not going to lie.
Wow, she owns it.
I
Way to
do
go,
own
Trine.
it. There are,
Wow.
yeah. And, well, look at your youngest kids. Do you treat them different?
No,
At this point
not
in
at
the
all.
podcast, I would like all of my children, all of the children of Trina, please shut off the... You don't treat your youngest different than the rest of your kids,
No,
honestly?
I don't think I do.
I had a very hard time letting our youngest go.
We know.
I think there was a lot in that. He was our youngest. That's like closing the book.
The chapter.
Yeah. Closing that chapter and moving into now
Empty.
it's just me and Jared. And we got pregnant the same year that we got married. So there's always been kids in the house. And in fact, this last week, he had his truck shipped to his new home. And I was like, this hurts. Yeah, our youngest. Like, this hurts because it's final. Like when I saw his truck in the driveway, which he's not been home for 2 years, on and off, but now it's just that one car in the driveway and it's just me and Jared. Like it's never just been me and Jared, except for the first 10 months that we were married.
I think for me, it's different because Amanda, being the youngest, was in junior high when we got divorced.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've had them off and on. I mean, I moved out the summer after his senior year, or the summer of his graduation. So the girls have known it to be where they were with me part-time and with Tom part-time. So I think it's different for me.
Okay.
Now, for me, empty nest, Tim and I often would talk, and probably more so him, when, that was our time together. He drives a motorcycle and I'm along for the ride. And even though I don't have a cup holder or speakers, and
was that a hint, wink, wink?
That came up in a conversation last night.
Your birthday's coming up, so.
Yeah. Well, that is part of my grateful, so hang tight.
Okay.
So we looked forward to being empty nesters. Now, I will say, when our youngest was still there, so she worked full time, even, picked up extra hours. She was doing her own thing. So it's not like she didn't really want to hang out with mom and dad. That was pretty evident. So we looked forward to that time because it got to be back to just us. Then you fast forward, grandkids. So there was a short window. And I did not want to be a grandma, even though I'm called Nana, Nani, Noonie, whatever they want to call me. But Tim was very much looking forward to it. So I don't know how you want to...
Tim's older than you.
Yes, by like 6.5 years. But I don't know how you look forward to spending time with your wife and then want to be a grandparent. But I think his version of it is different because, grandpas are just different than, they're not the caretakers that the women are. But and our oldest, when she got married, she's like, no, we're going to wait 5 years and we're not going to have any kids. And I'm like, okay. And I held her to that. No, not the case. But we had already, with our son, they had a daughter. So, and then Kaylee became pregnant shortly after she got married. So there really was I can remember her telling us,
hey, I want you to know that we had Trevor's granddaughter for a night, overnight and that. And it went very well.
Oh,
Very
Good.
well.
You figured out the pack and play, which those things are like a puzzle.
Yeah, he had trouble putting it down. I said,
yeah,
I don't get how it is. The car seat. He was like, I feel so stupid. I said, Trevor, I hear lots of people saying that. They make them
Yeah.
different than when our kids were younger.
What's up with all those straps? There's like 6 straps. I get the strap that goes behind the seat and the strap that goes through the seat, but I don't know what that one dangling down at the bottom is for.
I didn't do any of that. When our kids were younger, I just remember putting the seatbelt through
Right.
openings in the back of it. So I don't know. He figured that out. But I will say that he was a very doting pop. He was awesome. Yeah.
That's great.
Well, that's a very
Teresa
nice
has
compliment.
always told Tara that she's not ready for grandkids.
Yes, you say that to me all the time, and I thought it went well.
Well, good job. See, we're here for encouragement.
Yeah.
So I ask my kids to put the car seats in anymore. I'm like, I am happy to take them. I love having my grandkids over, but you put the car seat in. I can do the pack and play, but I cannot. The car seats, they're just hard to get in there, and I want them to be secure. So
Right.
I would feel better if my children put them
Now,
in.
I don't, I mean, I do only when it's necessary, but I don't like to drive with the grandkids. And I don't know why. I don't know. Now, if Tim is driving, I'm fine. But
You don't want the responsibility.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. I'm like, strap in, kids. Here we go.
It's probably because your kids undid themselves in the car and rolled out of the car when they were being watched.
Yes, Mom went anywhere and everywhere with them. And Kaylee did fall out of the car at Walmart, I think, one time.
But only once.
Well, I'm getting a theme. I fell out of a cart at the store on my head. Yeah, so it's in the face.
Well, let's hear some, because I'm not an empty nester yet. Trevor still has a teenage daughter at home. So you're both really empty nesters.
And about the time she graduates, you're going to have grandkids.
With grandkids, probably.
Yeah. So, and we had talked about that. I don't know if it was in one of these episodes or in a private conversation, but we had talked about, the bingo thing. You're doing the bingo card.
Yes,
and I
did
said,
come up
how
with
do you
one.
how do you get your kids to do things with you? And you said, well, my kids they don't have children yet. So that makes a difference because you don't have to plan for all the extra things that come with having young children. So, but back to the empty nest thing. So I probably, maybe in the last 6 months or so, I have finally gotten a grip on myself and started to be like, oh, it's not so bad coming home to a quiet house. But I do very much look forward to when the kids come over. And
so your energy comes from lots of people around.
it does. It absolutely does.
Do you ever?
Crazy.
Yeah. And some people are like that. Do you ever take, I have a friend who's very outgoing and would never guess that she needs one day a week as just a decompressing time.
Yeah, I have thought about running away. I did do that as a kid. Do you guys remember that? Oh, you probably don't remember. But anyway, that's a story for another time.
No, I remember Kate always wanting to run away. And
I ran away to Grandma and Grandpa's house.
No, I do remember that.
Yeah. And I think Theron ran away one time into the woods. But my stories on Theron get a little skewed. So,
hey, it's our memories, right?
That's right. So for me, being an empty nester, when it first happened, Jared and I had conversations and he's like, oh, I can't wait to finally it's just you and me. And I'm like, not so much. And I think I hurt his feelings by saying that, but I don't know how to put into words that feeling I have when my kids are with me. I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready.
Yeah, they just bring, when the kids come back, when we have game night or something, it's just different because then all of a sudden the hustle and bustle comes and it's a lot of activity in that. And when they leave, it's just stark quiet. I don't think you ever get over being a mom that wants your kids to be around, and you get your energy and your self-worth maybe a little bit more than you
Maybe a
think.
little more than I think. Yeah. So our oldest had gotten married, and after they got divorced, he lived with us for a minute with his daughter. And when he left our house again, now that's a totally different scenario, but when he left our house again, he had met a woman, they're now married, and so he had moved out, and I called him one day and I said, "You can come back." I forget the details on all this, but I'm like, "Jared, you can come back." And he's like, "Mom, I'm married." I will never forget that conversation. I don't think we had gotten in an argument or something. I forget why he decided it was time to leave, which it was. He was an adult and had his own child and blah, blah, blah. And at that point was married, or maybe he was just getting married. But either way, I will never forget him saying that. "Mom, I'm married. I'm not coming back home."
Do you remember the one Christmas Mom and Dad were out by the airport? They lived out by the airport in that farmhouse. And our kids were little.
Yes.
Like, I don't know that we had our youngest yet.
No, I only remember the first two for me.
Yeah. So we all said, let's stay at Mom and Dad's on Christmas Eve and wake up Christmas morning. Like, that will be so great.
Well,
because
we thought it would be Dad's last year. I mean, he had so many health issues.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, Dad might not make it, and let's just do this.
Yeah. And he lived how many years past
he
that?
did, because my husband doesn't let me forget that.
Yeah. So we stayed there, and it just wasn't the same. You can't go back.
Yeah,
you know?
can't.
But yeah, our husbands, especially Tim, thought that was just so ridiculous. Why would you want to do that? But I think for girls and for moms,
Yes,
it's just that.
There is a difference. There is a difference.
And there's also a difference in how your
Raised.
family, how you're brought up. It just does make a difference.
Yeah. I always think that, how you think something's going to be good. This might not be a good analogy, but I think it was my favorite candy bar growing up was a whatchamacallit.
Oh,
I mean, it's Reese's later on, but every once in a while I'm like, oh, a whatchamacallit. That they changed the formula or something it because it is not the same. But in my mind, like once a year, I still go, oh, a whatchamacallit. And I forget that it's not the same taste. So I try to get it again, and it's just never the same.
That is a very good analogy. I totally followed that.
Yeah.
So when we had talked earlier about, in another episode, we had talked about the differences in the way we were raised and our spouses were raised, and how then you have to find how your family is going to work. And Jared's family is which there's a lot of people that know us that are listening to this. So hear me out. So the difference in our family, I felt like was very
close.
Well, close, but also very outgoing.
Yeah, in a mafia type way.
Yeah, I have heard that some guys were a little bit leery to join the Travis bunch. But we were very, I'm going to use the word outgoing because I don't know another word to use, but we were always busy doing stuff. We were always together, that kind of just crazy fun family. Jared's family is very reserved. And so that was a big difference to me, especially when all of our kids were little and like his family would come over to our outings. I think they were dumbfounded. Like, is this what an orphanage looks like? Like, where are all these kids coming from? And to me, that is my happy place when the kids are all running around crazy. That is I'm content here. I love it.
Grew up that way.
Because I grew up that way. Yeah. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Now there is something to be said for the peace and the quiet and the stillness. And that is good too. But to me, the majority of the time, I would rather have the crazy.
So I came across this, and now as I look, because it's been several months. Time flies. But I like to, when I come across something, I'll just screenshot it thinking I'll save it for another time, and then I can never find it when I want it. So, but this fits in, Trina, with what you were saying. So it says, I wasn't counting. I wasn't counting that the years would blur the memories. The first day of kindergarten, 8 today, and then 10. In my mind, you are forever 12. The very last time I dropped you off at practice, stop here, Mom, I'll walk. The first time you drove to school on your own. It is a lot of pressure to be told, enjoy every moment. Because as a parent, we are mostly too busy living to notice when a moment is a moment. Until suddenly it sneaks up, the feeling that there are so few moments left. How fast it goes, my love. I wasn't counting on that. I think that's by Nicole Turkowski. But
Can you read that without crying? Like, seriously.
I mean, that is so true.
Can't you picture your kids at 12 years old while you're reading that?
Yes, but and not that it's either way is wrong. It's just we're different. So I just, raised my kids to be independent and go on their own. Like that was my goal. And I think I've probably lost some touchy-feely over the years.
I was just going to say, yeah.
I'm the only one crying, just so you know.
But I mean, it still touches my heart. It is deep down. Like, this is so true. And I will hear Tim when we're in the store and there's little ones, and he will always tell them, enjoy it now because it goes fast, or, something along those lines, which you always hear. But it's because we come from experience now,
Right.
where we've lived it. And people told us that all the time, and we didn't believe it because we were so busy living to notice the moment for the moment. So I think that's what, as a Nana now, I don't ever want to miss an opportunity to be with them. And so there are times where I have to say I'm not available because I'm not available. And it really tugs at my heart because I'm not available, because you can never get that moment back.
Right.
Oh,
So
is that what you were talking about, the guilt before we started recording?
Yeah. And it's not, and guilt, I've used that word and it's probably a strong word, but it's just the fact that I like to use the word hanging out with the granddaughters, and you just can't get it back. But I also can't stop my life for them as well, which both of my kids understand.
That's a hard balance to find.
Yeah.
But don't you guys ever have flashbacks of your kids? Like today, Logan sat beside me in church, and I just had an instant flashback of his chubby little face, and he was the cutest baby. But seriously, do you ever look at your kids and you just have like that second where they look like they did way back when,
Yeah. Or does something like Amanda, she still does it. When she's tired, she twirls her hair with
Aw.
one finger. And I think of that Halloween trick-or-treat time where she was dressed as Magenta from Blue's Clues.
Oh.
And she had a sucker and she got it stuck in her hair because she had to twirl her hair.
Aw.
So that I go back to that instant. Yes. Yeah. Of how it was. But yeah, or times I go through their scrapbooks and go, oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times I cry, but I think menopause has helped that.
Oh, I think it's made it way worse for me.
Well, mine's chemically induced. So I think that makes a difference. My body is just like, what are you doing to me?
And there are times like I think, oh, I could just sell this house and
start over.
it'd be done, with onto something else, even though I love my house and my husband has put a lot of work into it. But then I always tell myself it's really the memories that I would miss.
Right.
It's not the house, the structure itself, even though we have grown that physically as well, but it really is the memories. But also, Trine, you look at your adult kids now and you're like standing in awe of them, of how they have matured, grown. I mean, even I'm not going to pick out one child over the other because then they'll all, think.
Oh, yeah.
So since I only have one son, I'll pick on him. My favorite son and my favorite daughter-in-law, which we have an awesome daughter-in-law. But so I remember telling Tim not too long ago that, oh my goodness, Tim, he was listening. He was watching growing up, and I didn't think he paid a lick of attention. And I'm like, he really was paying attention. And he is, things that I hear that he does and says in that, I'm like, oh, you are your father. I mean, it has some traits of mine as well. I'm not sure they're the greatest ones, but he was listening.
Well,
and
I'm sure
paying
that
attention.
makes you feel proud.
Oh, very proud. And I could say something about all of them that just, amazing. And there's another thing I screenshotted, but it's going to take me too long to find it. Something
And there's
about
no Kleenexes in here.
something about the greatest thing is watching your kids grow up and being so proud of them. I'm not doing it justice, but something along those lines, and you just see how they turned out. Not everybody gets that.
Right.
So I'm not saying that we did anything miraculous or different or whatever. I'm just blessed and thankful for what it is at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. And, when you were talking about the moments, that you're just so busy living that you didn't take time for the moments. It made me think of, that's what we do with God. We're so busy living in this world that we don't take the moments, just like your word of faithfulness.
Yeah.
We know he's faithful, but it meant something to you extra special this week because you needed that. And he showed you in so many different ways. But if we're not looking for that, then we miss it. We have to be purposeful in looking for the moments and what God has for us, or they go by and we don't even realize it. Just like this morning getting ready for church, and I went to go downstairs, and I really believe God gives me these thoughts of, hey, don't forget to get your phone. Don't forget. So I didn't have to go downstairs and go back upstairs, and I'm just like, thank you, Jesus, because our sister-in-law, Darlene, says that a lot. And we've adopted that saying too and it's just truly giving him the praise of, you care so much for me that you're helping me not make extra trips up and down these stairs.
Oh, yeah. I believe the Holy Spirit is alive and working overtime in some cases, for some more than others. But I totally believe that happens.
Yeah.
What remember that song, What a Mighty God We Serve?
Oh, yeah.
Logan's going to kill me for singing on this, but I only did a little line, Logan.
I'm not allowed to sing.
Oh, who says that? Name them.
My spouse, I'm off key, and so I just mouth the words now. He's like, oh, no.
Do not let him take away your voice.
Oh, it's bad.
Oh, well.
In my first marriage, I wasn't allowed to make a meatloaf, so I made a meat ring.
That's funny. Oh, you rebel.
Yes.
I can't think of anything I'm not allowed to do. Like, I get a lot of leeway. And I guess I've never asked him if he cared if I sang. I do it anyway. I do. I have a terrible voice. Now, Logan and Courtney, awesome singers. I mean, they're on the worship team, and I know Taylor sings on the worship team.
She is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Mom has a beautiful singing voice.
Yeah.
She says she doesn't sing anymore, but yeah, I think that is a gift. But what was the pastor's name that sang everything?
Pastor Bob Chu.
Pastor Bob Chu.
Oh,
That's
yes.
right. And you know what? He inspired me. So now I sing whenever I feel like it.
You can look back on our lives and see so many people that
touched our lives.
Yeah, made a difference. But
so at Christmas, we got home movies and started to play them. And Jared was like, these people are gone. That's, from our growing up years, like, a lot of these people are gone. But you're right. So many people that speak into our lives. And as our listeners are partaking in this podcast, I hope that you are being blessed through us and encouraged.
Yeah. So speaking of people that are gone, and then that makes me think of, the next generation coming up and what we're doing. So we lost on our mom's side 2 aunts last year.
Yes.
And as the second aunt had passed away, and they would really be our great aunts.
Right.
But we still knew them enough and were around them enough because mom's family was big and they got together a lot. And so we were telling some of the family that Tara and I have adopted the roles of those 2 aunts. And one was a nurse.
Yes.
So
Aunt
Jean. And so that's Tara, and I'm Aunt Shirley. I think she was probably everyone's favorite. Is my But anyway, yeah, just great, great memories of people that have spoken to our lives, which means we need to speak into others' lives and be intentional and purposeful to speak to them.
And that goes back to your Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy.
Yes.
And I have thought of that analogy. I sent you girls a text. That has been what I've resonated with the most in our time together so far. And today I actually was looking around church. So we have, and those people don't have to be in church with you. They can be in your life in any area of your life. But we have prayer groups, and every so often these group of women will have 3 or 4 women that they pray for. And I have a really young girl on my list right now. Like, she's deciding what college to go to and such. And that has come back to me, the Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy. And I have been praying on that. Who will God put in my life, or who's already there that I just don't know it yet? So I'm excited about that, actually. Like, how God's going to work in that, I think. Because I had never heard that analogy before, that we need to have a Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy.
As we wrap up this episode, I'm just thankful once again for all the listeners who have let us know that they've picked a word of the year. Maybe they never done it before. Maybe they just didn't do it this year and now they're prompted to do it. So I just appreciate everybody sending us those comments. If you are listening to this, please feel free to comment on the platform that you're using. And we appreciate those who said they are praying for us, because this truly is a venture that we all believe God put us on. And so when that happens, you know that the evil one comes out even stronger, because now he looks at us as a threat. And I mean, when the thought came to me, I believe from God, to do this podcast, I'm like, what are we 3 going to talk about that other people will get? But actually somebody said, Tara, I'm taking notes. And I don't know that we're noteworthy, but maybe we are. But, there are things that people have never heard about. So may God use us as vessels to what he has for us.
Yeah, very good. So I'm thankful that, are we doing our thankfuls now? Yes. So I'm thankful.
I was going to ask the same thing because I had something else to say, but go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No.
Okay, so I am thankful that my daughter-in-law got a job closer to home with more money.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So as Tara was talking about being thankful and putting comments out there and how God has called all of us to this is what my thought was. So this is another screenshot that I saved, but it fits. The eldest daughter is basically the family CEO, as she calls the shots, makes the rules, and somehow everyone else just falls in line. I swear even the dog listens to her. And I wanted to say, Trina and I are just along for the ride.
Wow, did somebody write that about Tara? Because that is exactly you. That is exactly
somehow
you.
It skipped a daughter in her lineage.
Yeah,
that's okay. It's in my lineage, and you only have one, so
yeah. And she does try to keep her brothers in line.
This CEO does spreadsheets. So.
Yes,
yeah, you do a good job at the CEO position.
Thank you.
So
we all know Theron overrides everything, though.
Yes, this is true. I'm sure you all have been waiting, as it's been mentioned a couple times throughout this episode, of my grateful.
Literally sitting on the edge of my seat.
just a little background for our listeners because they won't know the whole story to appreciate and understand this. So our mom had chickens. She had like 6 of them for a couple of years. She moves to a bigger place. And our brother Theron, as Tara indicated, who really runs everything, he just dumped off a bunch of chickens in her backyard and puts up this fence thing for them. And then, as things happen, Teresa goes to less hours at work. Theron's gone more, somewhat, and then Mom had the accident. So someone has to take care of these chickens, and Teresa lives nearby. So for probably 2 years, I came down, a year and a half, a year, just over a year, but it felt like 5. So I would come down and take care of these chickens. Well, and we've had, this winter has been the worst, and we didn't know that, but last winter seemed a little bit brutal. And my husband always said, we are not having chickens at our house, just absolutely not. And out of the blue last summer, he said that he was going to make a chicken coop at our house, and then I would be able to take care of them there, because there were some other things that Mom had broken or did something with her fingers and couldn't. Anyway, it was just going to be easier for the chickens and for myself. So he did this chicken coop thing. And so now we fast forward to my grateful thing because, these are for me to take care of. Yesterday, he cleaned out the whole thing, like new straw. I know, Trina, I see your face. Cleaned everything out.
Good job,
Great
Tim.
job, Tim.
And he just did it on his own. Like, he's like, it needs done. He didn't complain or
God
anything.
is moving.
So
Wow.
I was just, he's like, well, I haven't gotten you anything for your birthday. I mean, it's coming
Please
up.
tell me that he did not clean the chicken coop out as a gift.
I said that could be my birthday gift. He goes, well, I'll have to do it one more time then. And
I agree.
hey, I would have taken it once. I don't care. I don't need gifts. I am
You're an
so
acts
dang.
of service kind of girl.
Yes, I am.
Well
Don't
said.
get me a Christmas present. Come clean my house.
Well, your birthday's coming up and I'm not cleaning your house.
Darn.
I might pick up the eggs, but I'm not getting in the coop. So, yeah.
No, because it's easier now.
Yeah, and he did a really good job with that chicken coop.
Okay, well, thank you all for listening. We encourage you to show some kindness to somebody. Just smile, be purposeful throughout your day to see where God is working in your life, and maybe start your bingo card. I'm excited to start that too.
Jared printed my bingo card out, and I have a list of what to put on it, but I'm like, how can I have the quickest prize if I have to decide where to put things.
Yes. And you know what? I didn't really pay attention to that, but I had all of my squares and I'm like, I think I'm missing something. Well, I couldn't think of anything and I put one in there. No complaints about Trevor for 7 days.
Is that the one you scratched out?
I scratched it out and I put memorize 3 scriptures.
Because it's easier to memorize 3 scriptures than, that's funny.
So recap the bingo.
So it was a bingo card. Amanda found it on TikTok and I just went to free bingo cards. I did it on Canva. So I kind of put some bling on it.
Ours.
Yeah. I just put some bling on it. But you can just insert, like I have no snacks for the day, lose 5 pounds, lose 10 pounds, read a book, read 2 books. So once you get a bingo, then you can treat yourself to something.
Then do you make up a new bingo card?
No, I continue to play.
I'm doing one for a month, and then I'm doing a year one.
Oh, wow.
Like for the really big stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, because sometimes.
Overachiever.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't achieved any of it yet, so. And we're already 1 month down. Oh, my goodness. We're already into February.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time, for this opportunity. You are a good, good God, and you are good to us. And I thank you for Tara and Teresa, and I thank you for their openness and their rawness in what they're saying. But above all, God, I thank you that you are preparing us and using us to encourage other people. I pray that your Holy Spirit will continue to move in our lives and in the lives of our listeners. Be with us this next week as we go forward, looking through our windshield and not our rear view mirrors, and just prepare our hearts to show other people your light. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well,